There's definitely a way to make your credibility, authority, and trust eternal. And there is one amazing way to create your long-lasting internet blueprint. It's not by showing off under your palm trees, the sun, and living the lifestyle. It's by being a guest on other people's podcasts. It might sound simple, but there are a few specific things that you need to implement in order to be successful at it. Stay until the end because I will show you what will help you separate you from the people who are just guests on plenty of show and don't get any money out of it, from the highly successful online coaches who definitely implement the right strategy to be successful with podcasting. Now, here are 3 reasons why you should consider podcasting. The first one, it's free. It will require you time and energy, but no zip money at all. Second, it's a way to quickly establish your credibility, authority, and trust. When you're featured, you are in a great position because the host promotes you and your business. And usually they share great things about you and express to their listeners why they should listen to the episode until the end. Plus, they usually let them know where to reach out to you and why they would like to do business with you. 3, it's a great way to grow your audience. Even when you have 0 followers, 0 subscribers, and no social media accounts, each and every single podcast interview puts you in front of new people, in front of a new audience. And that allows you to add these people on your email list. So you send them to your website to get a freebie from you and you grow your audience from there. Isn't it better for me to start a podcast myself? If you're just getting started with your online business, it's better to be a guest on other people's podcasts because they already have an audience and you don't. So by building your own audience out of these podcast interviews, well, eventually when the time is right, if you do decide to start a podcast, you will already have an audience ready to listen to your podcast. How can I find the best podcasts to be featured on? The easiest way to find podcasts to be featured on is to find a competitor or someone who is in your industry and see where they have been featured. Look out for these shows, see if they still accept guests, and reach out to the host and pitch them properly. And with that, you will add more and more of the right people to your audience. There's nothing worse than being featured on a podcast where your audience is not. Well, at that point, it just gives you crickets. Does the podcast audience size matter so much? It doesn't. 2 things are important though. The first, are you in front of the right audience? The second, is that audience engaged? Because your message really needs to be heard. Now, let's take action. One of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs do when they pitch podcasts is that they pitch an email template. And let me assure you, that is not a winning strategy. Think about yourself when you receive a kind of like a template email. How do you feel? You feel that the person didn't take any time to personalize the email, and you feel that, you're treated as a number. Also remember that these podcast hosts might be receiving a ton of emails from people who also want to be featured on their show. So you got to find a way to stand out. Here's how to do this. Your email has to be short, sweet, and straight to the point. Your subject line has to be catchy and clear. Your email has to feel personal. It needs to show that you've done some research on the host or on the podcast and that you really have something of value to offer. Pitch in a unique angle that no one has ever approached before and see what happens. And it's not because you get a reply that says no that the podcast host doesn't want to have you as a featured guest. It might just mean no right now, but you would need to continue to follow up eventually because yes, the power is in the follow-up. And if it happens that you don't get a reply, keep following up until you get a clear no. Before showing up on any podcast, it's important that it's very clear in your head the type of message that you want to express in front of these new audiences. What's the biggest value that you want to provide for that audience? And What do you want to do to prompt them to want to know more about you and your services right after the interview is done? One of the things that you have to understand is that people value stories, and the more stories in your interview, the more people will have a long-lasting impression of you. As Maya Angelou used to say, people will forget what you did, people will forget what you said, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So make sure that your stories are compelling, filled with emotions, and with a ton of value. And send people on a landing page on your website so they can exchange their email address for your freebie. And in case you don't know what a freebie is something of high value for your audience and that they get in exchange of their email address. When the interview is done, take some time to ask the host for feedback. Did you exceed the expectations? I hope you did, because if you do, well, it will be easy for you to ask to that host to refer you to other people's podcasts, right? Because usually podcasters, they have a big community of other podcasters, and if they know how much value you can bring to an audience, then for sure they won't hesitate to refer you to other podcasters they know that might fit your audience. Also, ask for a testimonial. How enjoyable was it to have you as a guest? In fact, it will also help you build your authority, credibility, and trust among featured guests. And you will be a guest that everyone will want to interview. Also, make sure to extensively share the interview when it's live, because the more efforts that you do for that, the more the host will appreciate, and the more that person will be prompted to refer you to other podcasters. Now that you have one of the cheapest ways to grow your audience, it doesn't protect you from making mistakes while building and growing your online coaching business. In my next video, I show you what's preventing you from signing coaching clients. Click here to watch it.